What's the most fricked up thing a guest did in your house? Happened to a friend. When we were younger, this kid came over to his house and took a crap and didn't flush or use toilet paper. Then, a few weeks later when my friend went over to his house, he was going to return the favor, but lo and behold there was already a turd waiting for him. The turd bandit strikes again. We have a backup key hidden somewhere outside the house. Once, my sister locked herself out while with some friends, so she got the backup key and so her friends knew where the key was hidden. Flash forward some time and we are coming home after going on vacation, and we find our house was broken into. Nothing was stolen but all the furniture was flipped upside down. Turns out my sister's friends did it as a prank. In retrospect it is fairly funny, but my parents flipped crap over it. Friend living in Europe came to US to visit family. Her husband was here for a couple of weeks but went back to Europe for work while she stayed with us for the summer. Unbeknownst to us, she had stopped taking her medications and started racking up long distance phone calls to Europe in the middle of the night, early morning to talk to her husband. But if she called his office and he wasn't there, she would just ask to be put on hold until he returned to the office, received a $3,000 phone bill and realized what had happened. Thankfully, our phone company at the time listened to my story and agreed not only to set us up with an international plan to call Europe cheaply, but they made it retroactive to when she started staying with us. $3,000 became less than $200. This was at my grandmother's funeral. She was a well-known lady, so many people came to her funeral. What happened while we were all grieving was a bunch of people decided to steal a whole bunch of random crap. All our plates, cups, cooking utensils, bags of rice, medicine, etc. all gone. After my mum passed away, her elderly friend came to visit. She asked me for wine. She pounded back 4 glasses. Then she whipped out a handful of sleeping pills and downed those. I freaked out. She said she did it all the time. She then proceeded to fall off the chair. She tried going upstairs and started to fall. I caught her and half carried her to bed. I heard her fall hard on the floor. She was laughing and delirious. She was 74. I wanted to call an ambulance but she flat out refused. I put her back in bed. Rinse and repeat 3 times. The next morning I asked if she had other friends she could stay with. I drove her to them. When I was in high school, I was having a party at my parents' house when they were out of town. My buddy Derek was not feeling well and really needed to take a dump. Apparently all of the bathrooms were occupied at the time of the emergency, so he ran into the garage, pulled his pants down, and diarrhead all over the garage floor. Hey, good on him for at least getting out of the main part of the house. Better him poop on concrete than hardwood or a rug. I was at a party and I hear the host yell OMG, who threw up on my dog. Dog was a shepherd mix, a bit stout, so he was walking around with a puddle of puke on his back like it was a saddle. I am just imaging the aftermath of the dog shaking and sending bits of vomit everywhere. Eck. I had a friend that spent the night over at my house when I was 9. She accidentally crapped her pants overnight, but instead of going to the bathroom, she just took her underwear off and threw it under my bed. After she left, my mom told me my room smelled terrible and she couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Eventually, we found her dirty poopy panties under my bed. After that, she was no longer allowed to stay over. Eventually she invited me to her place for a sleepover. Since she only had one bed, we had to share it. I woke up in the middle of the night, soaking wet and freezing cold because she had wet the bed and me. I had to lay in that bed all night, just hoping that morning would come soon so I could get up and take a bath. My parents bought a full-sized terracotta soldier that they had shipped home when they were visiting China. About a year later, when my parents weren't home, my grandpa painted it solid grey because though it looked worn and dated. And that's when grandpa was sent to the retirement home. When I was young, I was in Cub Scouts, and we decided to build all our Pinewood Derby cars at my house one year. So my whole little crew comes over, including this kinda weird dude named Ricky. After about an hour of building, Ricky goes into the bathroom for like an hour, and then leaves the bathroom, says goodbye without slowing down and walks out the front door and gets picked up by his dad outside. My dad was kinda like WTF, so he goes and looks at the bathroom and god dang, there was tiny little crappy fingerprints on literally every surface of our bathroom, like seat, handle, Toilet paper, walls, sink handles, soap bar, god dang everything. And yes, we had to clean all that crap up, but Ricky ended up with the nickname Dickie Shat Prince, so jokes on him I guess. There was this kid who lived around the block that would come over sometimes. Well, one day he found some lemonade mix and decided the best thing to do with it was to dump it all on the ground, use the sink nozzle to get the floor wet, and turn the kitchen into a skating rink. Why the lemonade mix was necessary I have no idea, but that was a really fun day until my parents came home. I did a very similar thing at a friend's house when we were kids, the difference being that it was baby oil on the bathroom floor to make the skating rink. I convinced my friend that it was a good idea on 2 separate occasions. Let a guy I knew from college stay in my house for a few months because he kept bitching about how his parents don't let him do anything, and I figured one more person paying rent wouldn't hurt. When he moved out, with about a week's notice, I was forced to clean 8 months of jizz stains from the wall where his desk used to be. Get a box, dude. I had a girl who was 6 or 7p in my boots. Had a party with 8 friends. After they left, I went to the hall bath and noticed the hand towel missing. I looked on the floor and noticed crap smeared into the grout. Then I looked at the toilet and realized crap was smeared in swirls all over the side of the toilet closest to the wall. I don't know what happened and never did find the hand towel. Gross. Years ago, my old housemate's mum came to visit. I'd just done a 14-hour shift in the pub I was working in at the time. I came home to find her in the kitchen off her face, in her tights, surrounded by broken glass on the floor and eating my cereal from the bag. She'd smashed all the wine glasses. She was a counselor for the Tory party too. Housemate had passed out, so had to deal with this wreck of a woman who I'd never met before. He was sleeping over and in the middle of the night I see this dude punishing the crap out of his meat. I swear this dude sent it to the fricking shadow realm. I had a friend who would visit occasionally when I lived in an apartment with my wife. He would always leave early in the morning on Sunday before either I or my wife was awake, and he would plug the toilet and just leave it, every fricking time. Years ago, I lived in a mobile home, me and my SO. To help with bills and rent we took in a guy as a roommate short term. Was supposed to be a week. Was my neighbor's father. I should have figured out right there when he didn't let his dad stay with him. Day 1. Set up a computer in his room. That's cool. Play WoW or whatever you do. Nope. He was watching cam girls at a high volume. Day 2. I come home to my door locked. My key isn't working. This dude had the audacity to change my locks while I'm at work. He said he didn't feel safe. Day 3. I had friends over for a BBQ. We all worked at the same fast food restaurant that may or may not serve tacos. The store manager closed on Tuesdays. We were off as a group. Every Tuesday we'd eat, drink, etc. He brings some chick home, without giving us a heads up, and they're freaking in his room, with the bedroom door open. I am walking my buddy's 3-year-old son to the bathroom as he didn't want to go alone. That is when we saw him. Seriously, now I don't even invite people to my house. Meet me somewhere. Nobody is coming over. Almost every time my mom came to my house she did something fricked up. She would break things, or decide something needed fixing and call up whatever repair or service person was and then just present me with the bill when I came home from work. She flooded my kitchen once, which leaked out all over my living room and warped my hardwood floors. I came home once and she had repainted my kitchen. But the worst was when she left candles burning and we woke up to my living room in flames. Almost killed us both. I live in Asia now, in a small studio apartment, so even when she comes to Asia, which has only happened once so far, she can't stay in my home. Your ma should test software. Making things break is required in that occupation. A girl came over during a party. She'd obviously had a few drinks. First she tried making out with me, which I'm generally in favor of, but she was trashed and could hardly walk, so we set her on a couch. She didn't stay there though. She took one of the hockey sweaters I hang on the wall, put it on, and sat on the floor, banging her hands and singing to whatever song was on. It was obnoxious, but harmless, and thankfully she stopped because a few minutes later, she pukes all over my sweater, herself, and the floor. Not great. We get her to the bathroom, where she promptly passes out, which is generally a good spot to do so, except when it's 10 PM and people are still coming over, and there's one bathroom in the place. We eventually just unlock the door, find her sleeping naked in the bathtub, in her own puke, happy as frick, thanking us for inviting her, etc. We left her there, drew the shower curtain, and she either passed out or got to hear everyone pee for the night. She woke up at around 4 AM and climbed into my bed, where I was blissfully sleeping. Keyword was, had to call her a cab and pay him up front because, shockingly, she lost everything she owns in someone's car. Then I got to throw my sheets and blankets in the laundry and sleep on the couch. We're still friends. She's apologized plenty, but that wasn't a good night for her. She has interesting courtship rituals. My GF's old friend was in town, so he stayed with us. I already didn't trust him because he was a terrible alcoholic and was known to steal things. He stayed in her room and she slept in mine. Woke up at about 8:30 and he was gone. He peed the bed, stole a vinyl of Elvis Presley's Moody Blue album from her wall. She had a limited edition black pressing, and we never heard from him again. He died a couple of months ago from H overdose. I had a house party in college that was broken up by the cops when the red and blue lights started flashing into the windows of my bedroom, where myself and probably 5 or 6 other folks were partaking in illicit drug use. This chick whom I do not know just dashes out of my room in a panic. She returns in an instant with a jar of my peanut butter and begins mashing her goddamned fingers into it and shoveling huge globs down her gullet. At this point, high on illicit drugs, I vividly remember yelling in a manner that reminds me of Jessie from BB What the Frick. Yo, she can barely open her mouth or use her tongue because her crap is so covered in my freaking food, as she explains to the whole crowd that eating peanut butter will beat a breathal as a test. Before tearing out back into the night, I've never seen her again. The cops are super nice, just ask everyone to leave, and I wake up the next morning, which is when I see it. This peanut butter bee cleaned her grody little claws all over my freaking walls on her way out the house. There were streaks of peanut butter down the hall, down the stairwell, and all over my gadanged couch by the front door, where my pillaged jar of peanut butter lay like a cowering victim by the welcome mat. I am still betrayed. I was the guest at my sister's house. We were getting really drunk with her husband, and her husband's friend. I needed to pee and her husband told me to go pee in the bush behind his garage. So I stumbled over there and whipped out my junk and began to take the longest pee of my life. About 4 seconds in, I heard a sound coming towards me. It was my sister's big, dumb, beautiful golden retriever. Jasper, the dog, is a real attention W. Apparently he wanted to get my attention while I was peeing, so he ran under the stream and tried to roll around in it. I pinched off the stream, at great personal peril, and spun around 180 degrees and let the stream go. Jasper thought this was a new game. He ran around me and started playing in the stream again. In my drunken state, I started to aim off to the sides, but Jasper was not as drunk as I was. He reacted to my evasive maneuvers much quicker than I expected. He bit at the stream and frolicked in it until my bladder was empty. Then, with a big dumb grin on his face, Jasper ran back to my sister. I had to follow him and tell everyone not to touch the dog because he had just been playing water sports. My brother-in-law's friend laughed so hard he nearly fell into the fire pit. The dog got bathed and couldn't have been happier. My sister was mortified. Her husband thought it was hilarious. Drunk friend puked on my couch and floor, made a half-assed attempt to clean it with some paper towels, then just left without saying anything while I was asleep in my room. Woke up to find puke everywhere. We had a guest do something similar. He threw up on the floor and instead of cleaning it up, he covered it with my husband's new sweater and went back to sleep. Okay, so this one time I had my best buddy from elementary and middle school down to visit me from out of state. Awesome dude. Love having him around whenever I can. We went to visit my brother at his college dorm for some parties. Friend and I are both 21-22 at this point. Brother and his friends are 18-19. We hit the bars downtown, get rip-roared, and proceed to walk back to the dorms to crash on various couches. I stayed up till about 5 AM hanging out with one of the roommates because we'd had vodka Red Bull and sleep wasn't going to be possible for a bit. At right around 4:45 we hear running water from the kitchen, and both wondered who was up. As we walk out into the kitchen we see out-of-state friend sleepily standing in front of the open refrigerator, taking a pee all over everything in there. I'm saying all over everything. Full spray. Brother's roommate and I both simultaneously ask but why out-of-state friend says wanna suck it and then goes unconscious. By far the worst thing done to anybody's place that I've seen personally. In his defense, out-of-state friend replaced everything in the fridge and cleaned it out to the extreme before everyone else woke up the next day. Probably ended up cleaner than it had been in years. All of bro's friends say it's one of their fav stories from college. When I was a kid, me and my friends were over at a birthday party. We were playing hide and seek, and one of the kids peed in the kitchen sink because he had to go, but didn't want to reveal his location. None of us knew about it at the time, but later my parents got a phone call asking if I did it. My dad sat me down and asked me straight up. I looked at him like he had 3 heads and said no, I'm not 5. Then he laughed his butt off at the idea of some middle schooler peeing in someone's kitchen sink. Had a house guest, who was fairly tall, turn the shower head around to bounce the water off the drywall and ceiling to get the water to fall on his head. He has not been invited back. I'm 6 feet 7 inches and pretty much all shower heads hit my chest, so I just bend over for my head. What the frick was that dude thinking? Surfed pee on my PC and got it infected with malware. I have to assume he also jerked off at my desk. I stopped hanging out with him when he decided to casually shoplift some stupid thing when we were at the mall. No way am I going to get caught up in any legal BS because of his dumb butt. My parents have satellite internet and are on a data plan. They had a guest over that spent all night on a cam girl site and used up all their monthly data. It was the 3rd day of that month. A former friend stayed the weekend with her kids. She left a potty chair filled with pee in the room where they were staying. Flashed her boobs at my husband, didn't feed her children breakfast, and the worst, she grabbed my cat's tail and pulled her across the floor. Glad she's a former friend. She got up at 3 AM on a fricking Wednesday and proceeded to make special stew. Special stew was literally every single meat from our freezer, water, and ketchup. Oh, and not to mention, she sobbed loudly while doing this. Also broke 3 knives trying to chop a frozen ham. Frick you, Leanne. 2. I have a story. My little brother is autistic. Naturally, when there was another kid with autism who came into the neighborhood for a block party, we invited him over. They had fun, seemed like a cool kid. He asked to use our bathroom, and we said sure, of course. He was in there for about a half hour, and then he suddenly scurried out of the house and ran off somewhere. When my mother went in next, she found the walls covered in finger-painted fesses. All our white towels were covered in brownish green streaks, and there was brown stains all over the sink top and the rug on the floor. But the rug was upside down. Flip over the rug. It was even more covered in fecal matter. It was incredible. Bleach bombed the place with my mom. Never saw the kid again. Dickie Shat Prince strikes again. Let their kid crap on my deck, and then not use bleach to clean it, and then argued with me when I used bleach to clean it, and then got offended that I argued with them about the cleanliness of their kids' crap. Their anti-vaccination stance should have tipped me off. Whoa, they literally thought their kids' crap don't stank. Take a picture of my BV. It's like a yeast infection, but with bacteria, and it's not a STD medicine, and posted it on Twitter. My brother-in-law came to stay at my flat and bought his friend who didn't like dogs and was allergic to them. No problem. I told him that this was the dog's home and he'd have to live with it, but I'd try and keep the dog away from him as much as I could. I was in the kitchen and I heard him saying frick off. No, go away. So I guess the dog was doing that thing that dogs do when faced with someone who doesn't like dogs. Not leave them alone. I started to go into the front room to grab the dog and I heard a heavy thunk sound and my dog yelped and scooted past me. The sucker had kicked my dog. I grabbed him by the front of his shirt, dragged him to the front door, threw him out and told him that he wasn't welcome in my home. You did the right thing. cousin of an ex got drunk and pilled out. Then diarrhea shat herself all over my couch after we all had gone to sleep. Tried to clean herself by going to the bathroom. Then that bathroom was too contaminated with crap all over the toilet and all in the sink almost to the point of being clogged. Then she went to my other bathroom to clean herself off. Crap was everywhere. Walls, shower curtains, sinks, and door handles. She woke me up and said there was an emergency. I got up and drove her to her car before I discovered anything from the little crap storm. That was the crappiest day of my life. Sucker stole my oven door. We had a house guest staying for a week while he interviewed for jobs in our area. He was told that there was just one major house rule. Do not let our cat outside. He's an indoor cat only and has never been outdoors on his own. Well, we came home from work one day that week and found that he had left the sliding glass door and screen to the deck open while he went for a walk. The cat was gone, nowhere to be seen. We searched the neighborhood and enlisted our friends to help. Our beloved pet was missing, and the house guest couldn't understand why it was such a big deal. At that point, I told him that our cat meant more to us by far than his so-called friendship, and out he went, not to return. Miraculously, long after we had given up hope, one day Mr. Kitty returned, sitting on the deck, meowing through the screen door. I have this one friend who ends up doing something fricked up every time he stays over. One time he crap himself, not even drunk. This man is in his late 20s, so I figured he would be all set to take a shower to clean himself up. He was in there for over a half an hour before the shower shut off. Meanwhile, the rest of us are drinking and chatting in the kitchen. After 10 minutes of audible clanking and thumping with him moving crap around in my bathroom, the shower turns back on. It is literally another half an hour before he finally comes out of the bathroom and everything in the room is moved. The counter and walls appear to have been washed. All the little bathroom rugs are in different spots, and various cleaning products from beside toilet are against the opposite wall. To this day, I am not sure what happened in that room while he was in there, but I haven't felt completely comfortable in my own bathroom since. This butthole kept the faucet running overnight in a plugged up drain. Drain was plugged because it had been cleaned by the owner earlier in the day, and woke up to see water pouring through the light fixtures in the basement. The owners were my parents and the guest was me. Found the wet bandit. Back in high school I was throwing a party at my house. Now during the night this couple came up and asked me if they could use my guest room to fool around. I said to go ahead, that's what that room is for. Well, about 5 minutes after that exchange, this neckbird with a hard-on for the chick who just went up with her boyfriend, went upstairs and started banging on the door. They locked it. He tried to just walk in. I hear the noise so I go to the entrance and look upstairs at the guest room door, to which at that point, I see this neckbird do this SWAT team kick and break open my door. I ask him WTF and he says it's rude for people to lock your doors in your own house. I just kicked his butt out. This was only one of many creepy butt things he did too, and thought about how I was going to explain the door to my mom. My two bonehead friends were at a party at my house this past Halloween. This was a brand new house with all new crap in it. I noticed them go missing for a while and went to go check to make sure they were okay. I go to the room where we were keeping all the jackets and I notice the door is locked. I hear two people giggling, so normally I would think someone was hooking up or something, but all the women were accounted for. So I get the keys out to open the door and the giggling gets louder, and the second I unlock the door it quickly locks again. Then it happened. The ground starts rumbling and I hear fourthly kaboom, these two suckers idiots break down my door in my brand new house and I'm on the other side. I got freaking crushed. I was also holding a beer which got smashed. These guys are going to be in my wedding party this year. They bought me a new door and trim and installed it all. My fiance didn't talk to them for weeks and she was mad at me, two freaking guys. My father and his girlfriend visit from out of town and rearrange my kitchen every time. They love to cook for me, but apparently I keep everything in the wrong place. I spend the following week after they leave slowly relocating cookware and utensils, putting it back where it belongs. My girlfriend rearranged my kitchen without asking and I can't even get mad because it is a lot better. Tried to invite a couple Hells Angels to a house party. They didn't take too kindly to being turned away at the door but didn't do anything else. You missed an opportunity to make lifelong friends there. threw a bowling ball through the wall above the stairs which went into our basement, stole the whole entire back wooden steps off the side of our house that went to our kitchen door, walked directly into the sliding balcony door, kicking it and putting a big crack in it with the tip of their shoe, threw snowballs through a broken window upstairs, climbed up onto our roof high on ecstasy. I should also mention we all lived in a really notorious party house back in the day. We used to throw big parties. You know it's a good party when you lose a set of steps. I had a nice house in upstate NY and my parents came to visit after not seeing them for 6 years. We had a toilet paper basket with a cover in the bathroom that held spare rolls. After they left, my wife discovered that my mother had left a few of her adult diapers in the container. God rest her soul. A guy who came over to party puked all over my bathroom and then didn't clean it, just went to sleep in my bed. I got him back though. I married him a couple years later and gave him 2 kids and he has had to clean way more puke since then. Running the long con I see. You've been stopped by the bread cat. Like this video too or he'll eat all your bread. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.